Hi everyone, I'm Kim and I'm here with Taris, Lee, Juji, and Shira. We are 5 friends, speakers, and professionals from different backgrounds, cultures, and age groups coming together to offer healing and inspiration. Today, it's the first time since COVID that we are doing our show all together. Yay! And the reason is we're celebrating our 30th episode.
Plus, we missed each other.
Yes. It has been crazy and challenging for everybody on the planet, including each of us. And do you know what's gotten us through it? Talking. Talking about difficult topics to each other and to you, our audience. Talking is medicine. And today we're going to spend some time exploring why that is. So, friends, let's talk.
Yes.
Let's do what we do best. Yes.
You know, talking is really why we created the show. Because we, first of all, women talk 3 times as much as men do. We know that, right? They do.
Not all men. Only Have you met my fiance? Sorry.
No, but the truth is that it's why we created the show, and I am so convinced that one of the reasons that I think we've done relatively well through all of this, and hopefully we'll continue to, is because we have this forum to share our fears, our hopes, our dreams, our concerns.
And not be judged or criticized.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yep. And there's nothing like a forum to actually just kind of get it all out. Getting it all out sometimes is just therapy in and of itself.
It really is. This is so cool. Like
talking in person.
And also to help each other with the tools that we each use to get through or past something. Because sometimes just talking doesn't help. You know what I mean? Like I'm saying verbal talking.
I think it depends on who you're talking to, because everyone at some point in our lives we suppress our emotions because we just don't know how to deal with them or how to handle them.
Communicate.
And so we just suppress them, and then we don't talk about them, and then you avoid them, and then that could cause a whole slew of issues physically, emotionally, mentally. And it's so like just such a release when you could have someone that you trust who's not going to judge you, who you're not going to be scared to, they're going to criticize you or think differently of you, since the biggest fear is looking bad and not, so just to fully express yourself and having people you trust that you feel safe with is huge.
It's interesting because when you think about it, there are really 3 talking mechanisms, right? There's the toxic kind of talking where you're surrounding yourself with people who are, whether they're complaining or gossiping or just jumping on the bandwagon of negativity. And then there's the people that don't talk, that suppress it, like you were just saying. It's like, oh, if I talk about it, it's going to make it worse, and so they bottle it up inside, and that's the stress and the the high blood pressure and all of that. And then there's the healthy talking, right? I feel like that's what we try to model. Where we speak and we listen and we talk and we communicate and we compromise and all of those things.
But there's such a thing as like confirmation bias, like if we all talk to each other and everybody just agreed all of the time, then we wouldn't be able to grow from one another. We are totally able to like check each other and be like, do you feel like you're blowing this out of proportion? Or do you feel like what you're saying is even true? Right. Like we are able to ask those questions, going back to the question asking episode. Right. So it's a support system that isn't just placating.
Right. Yeah.
Or judgmental.
Sometimes I need you girls, what you do best is sometimes you'll point out if it's just a story that I'm creating, because a lot of times that's what it is.
Yeah, and I feel like you need to be in a certain level of friendship with somebody in order to do that. So it takes you into that authentic kind of talking where, one person feels safe enough to share or to spill the beans or and the other person feels like they can also, keep you accountable or point things out that may not be so healthy for you at the moment.
Well, let's delve into so there's 3 areas, right? So then there's the negative and the toxic talking. So who here has sort of experienced that in their lives, whether it's work or free?
Let's just remember though, that's not really medicine though.
Right, exactly.
But for them it might be. It might be like, oh, I'm surrounding myself with people who get me, but I'm, like
Like
attracts
a
like.
Woes,
not
like a
true
Woes
medicine.
company.
It's like
not
maybe-
true medicine.
Yeah.
Yeah, and if you have someone who does have that victim mentality and is really stuck in a negative, like the world is against me, everything in my life
Yeah.
goes wrong type of thing, and they're venting about it to their friends who are maybe enabling them and just being like, oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, it
Oh, you
sucks
should
for
hear what happened to
Right,
me.
right,
You
right.
think that's bad? Wait till you hear what happened to me.
Right, it's just
It's
enforcing.
satisfying
It's
for the
enforcing the
moment.
negative.
Taba. Yeah.
Yeah.
Taba. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's
Taba.
not healthy, because the focus is all on the negative.
Right, or there's like the avenue you can take where like you don't feel good about yourself, so what you end up doing is like talking badly about other people and like, did you hear what so and so did? Can you believe it? Like, I definitely fell into the like gossip category of like, did you see what she was wearing? Just because I didn't feel secure in myself. So instead of coming to my friends and being like, you know what, I've gained some weight, I don't feel good about it, I don't feel good in my body right now, instead of any of those kind of ways of expressing myself to the people that were closest to me, I'd be like, who does she think she is wearing that outfit, you know?
And that made you feel better, I'm sure.
I mean, for a minute,
Temporarily,
for a very, very short period of time. And I mean, that was in my 20s, so I feel like that was something that I had to learn. And those friendships that I had at that time where that was how we related to each other, I'm not friends with those people anymore.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not because, oh, they're toxic people and I can't be friends with them. It's just like, we didn't create genuine bonds together that were founded on reality and loving ourselves and all that stuff.
Yeah, and I think those loving bonds happen a little bit later on in life. For a lot of us, anyway. I know for myself, every decade, as the decades went on, my friendships got more real, and I kind of did away with people that were not supporting my own or in alignment with things that I believed in. So you just kind of...
Because you know what? Because you ain't got no time for that.
I got no time for that.
Precious.
Well, but that's the difference. You have, like what you were just saying, you have people who I think don't have, and even as they get older, because I know 50-year-olds who are still very gossipy, very woe's me, are surrounded by people who enable that and focus on that. But it takes a lot of courage and maturity to be able to go to people that you love and trust, and it takes a lot of courage to talk about your feelings, to say, this is how I'm feeling. I'm actually feeling down about myself, because like I said before, if most people's biggest fear is to look bad. So we don't want to look bad. It's going to hurt me to say to you, I feel I've gained weight and I feel bad about myself, or I'm struggling with anxiety, or whatever it is. So I think having that courage and having, obviously the right people around to support those words and those emotions and reflect those back to you and show empathy, is just so important. It's why we're so happy in this friendship.
But it also comes to self-talk, right? So you have to talk to yourself, right, to understand the proper talk of what talk of medicine is, right? So like, for an example, when you were saying, oh, you were in your 20s and you were going out and maybe bad-mouthing a couple of people.
And that wasn't a
I'm
long
like,
time
oh,
ago.
that was not a long time ago. So watch it.
And that always gets me, like, when she talks about, well, when I was in my 20s, a couple of years ago, I'm like, gosh, that is so long.
Well, this is like a decade ago.
Sorry.
But I think that when you don't check yourself and have your own conversations with yourself and actually acknowledge, ooh, why did I just say that about that person? Or like, why do I even care? Or like, how do I really feel about myself? Like, you have to kind of sort of go inward a little bit to be what we have.
That's true, but I feel like that's if you are evolved or evolving enough to be aware of that, to question yourself.
Totally. It's all
Because
about
it's
awareness.
those people that are in their 50s, 60s, or maybe their whole life that never question, and they're toxic, and their thoughts are toxic, and they're in victim mode all of their life. And I think if you're not educated about it, or don't have some kind of an aha moment in your life at some point.
I just feel like everyone has in their life at least one person that's going to be like, do you want to talk about it? Or like, do you want to maybe get something off your chest? Or like, how does that make you feel? Or like,
No.
you don't think so?
Everybody has that?
I think everyone has at least one person that has crossed their path.
We hope.
I think
You
so.
hope as you get older too, because I know, people who do suppress their emotions, a lot of people grow up in families where they aren't raised to talk about their feelings. They're not encouraged. They're not asked questions like, how do you feel about that?
Right.
And so they don't feel it's like okay and safe out in the world to do that. So they avoid it. But my point is growing up I grew up in a household where we didn't talk about our feelings. That wasn't ever a thing. We never discussed anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't either, but there was always someone, and it was probably because I was looking for it, that crossed my path, that I got some form of medicine from talking. Whether it was like, in a quick moment, or like, I was on an airplane and someone, paid me a compliment, and then we started a discussion when I was little. There was always something, and I saw it, I noticed it, I felt it.
I like that.
Yeah.
And also sometimes when people do say things to you, you don't even realize it's medicine until later.
Yeah.
You can take something away from a conversation and later say, wow, that really has structured my thinking,
I think it's also important to remember our society and how we're structured and set up. So there are easier ways for certain people in society to be able to do that. Of course, there's awareness, but there's also, when you think about men and how they're not necessarily encouraged to talk about what's going on for them deep inside. And that's got to be like really hard, where you're just bottling this stuff up. And even our society from a social media standpoint, where it's like everyone's got to have a certain look. But I think those systems are starting to break down a little bit. I really do think that it's just like, all right, enough of that crap.
Yeah.
Like, what's really happening?
I want to just share something. So I noticed that, right? So I went to my first energy healing Reiki circle on the beach the other night. And it was all these people, and we were all strangers. Nobody knew anyone, and there was about 22 people there. And we all sat in a circle and shared so much about each other. And you realize that, oh my God, every single person that's talking right now, I've been in that situation. Or, oh my God, I felt that. Like, we're all so connected. But it was so nice to see that there were so many people that didn't know each other, that were just willingly open to connect and just bond. And like, the community was like just, it was just so beautiful.
People are craving that, not just the social media like set up for failure, but now COVID with the isolation. People are craving the.
Are we in COVID? Because I forgot.
Well, actually, what's funny is you guys are talking about how that wasn't a part of what you experienced growing up. Well, I did. My mom's a child psychologist. We were always encouraged, like over encouraged, to share how we were feeling. So I grew up with that, and it was very natural to me. And somehow I lost it along the way as an adult, and then I felt like, honestly, Landmark was the thing that really, like everybody was sharing their experiences. Oh, I've been in that situation. Oh, I really feel that person. And I was just like, where did that go? Where did that skill that I was like so internalized as a child, where did that go in adulthood? And it's like, you leave the nest and you encounter the real world. And like in the real world, it's a fake it till you make it, New York City on the go, can't ever let anybody like break this shell open kind of situation. And can anybody let that shell break open? So, and everybody's in that mindset. So that's how we all related to each other. I was in the fashion industry, so like, never let them see you sweat was the ultimate tagline. And it's not a glamorous career by any stretch of the imagination. People think it's so cool from the outside, but on the inside, it's like really, really hard work. And so
we saw from prepping for this shoot how hard it is.
That's right.
Absolutely. Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, she mentioned Landmark. It's like a self-development program. I was in it with Juji actually. And you're right. And there's something about like when you're in a place where people are sharing and talking about their emotions and things that they've gone through, just listening and feeling like, oh, I'm not alone, because it might not be your exact situation, but you could relate to something someone is saying, and it just makes you feel like you really are kind of in your own world. Like it's just you here out in this world and you are completely alone in your emotions. But, you know, even if say I'm suffering from anxiety or depression or something, there are millions of people out there feeling the same way. Like we are so not alone in our feelings.
And I think it's human nature to feel that we are the only ones going through that, right? Or at the moment. And I too, through my career or careers as a personal trainer and a health coach, every single person that I came into contact with, you know, I realized that everyone's going through something, something that, so you can relate to the pain, you can relate to the hurt, you can relate to some trauma.
As long as you're open to it. Like there's some people that are just no empathy and they don't care.
Well, it's funny you say that because I was just about to say, when I'm speaking with, say, you guys, there's so much empathy and reflection and validation. Like to have your feelings validated sometimes is just so empowering because it's almost like you feel something, but you almost just need permission from someone else who's caring and nurturing in your life to like, yeah, I do feel that way. I am sad about that. And it's like, oh, it's okay. It's okay that I feel that way.
Wouldn't it be amazing? I know I talk about this a lot, but I hope and pray that all of the transformation that our world is going through is going to impact how we teach children. Because can you imagine, I mean, you don't always get it at home, as we know, but if we were taught in schools and hopefully at home, this, right? Can you imagine how much more empathy and compassion there'd be in the world? And it's like there'd be no need for the, you know, look what's happening in our society. I mean, even politically, it's just this one-upping of the negativity. It's like, just stop it. You know, it's not who we are.
You know what's actually really nice with everything that's going on right now? I just had an aha moment. Like, we saw the kids in isolation in their classrooms and the desks and everything. Wouldn't it be nice that the teachers start to recognize, oh my God, we need to dive a little deeper. So because these kids are a little bit more isolated, let's ask them how they feel. Let's ask them, it may open a door for a little bit more communication amongst people.
I think with teachers, their time is limited and their curriculum is very, very limited. They have to follow like certain, you know, strict protocols.
But even when you get home, your parents or someone in your family or a close friend may say, so how was the experience at school that, like, you know, you're wrapped up in bubbles? Or, you know, how did it feel wearing that mask all day? Or how, like, I just think it opens the door for a lot more healthy conversation.
You know, it's an evolution, because when we were going to school, there was no social emotional learning, right? So now there's a little, so as long as we're seeing progress, because I have friends that are teachers and they do have the, you know, how are you feeling today? And I think even in high school, they're starting to like understand that kids are going it alone, and that's just, it's just not, it's not good. It's not healthy.
Right. I think what is helping, unfortunately, is the coming out
fire sirens
is the suicide statistics. You know, they're going up, and the depression and all that stuff. And I just think like you can't ignore it anymore. Like that's a problem.
Yes,
you know,
it's been a huge problem for years, and it's getting worse.
But I think now it's the doors opening where people are going to really start talking about. I mean, you can't listen to a commercial on television without them talking about suicide now.
Well, we're talking about everything
and
these
hotlines.
days. We're talking about autism and being on the spectrum and suicide, and we're talking about all these things. But I also think that it depends on also the luck of the child who's growing up these days, where if they have a mentor, you know, or do they have a parent that is, you know, instilling some good values and teaching them about this stuff, or how to handle tough situations, or you know, or teachers. I think a lot of teachers are great mentors and heroes to some students,
but they can't be it to every
student.
And
also, how far can they go?
Different energies, different interactions, different personalities. Sometimes you just may get that click with a certain kid.
You know, that's why we should also encourage, you know, each other and our viewers to you know, like I did volunteer work a couple of years back with an underprivileged child, and who was in a very difficult family situation, and just having her connected to her. She was 12 years old at the time, going through unimaginable stuff, and she's since moved away. But I just think it's important that we encourage the volunteerism and the mentorship for young kids, because you never know.
Well, can you imagine? Can you imagine that, you know, even as us were adults, can you imagine not like feeling all these emotions of sadness, anger, all these things? Imagine not having anyone to talk to about it. Can you even imagine that? Like, I just can't. I can't relate at all. I have, thank God, plenty of people to talk to, family, friends like you guys, but I just can't even imagine how that must feel. It's like a domino effect. It probably just gets so much worse.
Right.
I used to
More
feel that way because I was going through a lot of things that I was shameful of, and I was like, "Don't talk about it. It's going to balloon. It's going to make it worse. Don't talk about it."
That's
And it was just the absolute opposite, and it took me a long time to kind of break that shell open.
Yeah,
and
and
once
I
I did,
and I think that's a whole big, huge topic that we could start to talk about maybe in our part 2.
Well, we definitely need a part 2 because
Yes.
you mentioned something earlier about talking to yourself.
Oh yeah.
So there's like two, those two huge
Self-talk.
categories of talking to others and talking the way you talk to yourself, which is enormous. So we're going to dive into that in a part 2 coming up. Thank you so much for listening. And if you like our content and you give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, feel free to comment and ask questions or suggest topics. We would love that. So thank you so much, everybody. We're so excited to be here in person.